Hi, everybody. I'm Meteorologist Joe Cioffi. Just want to go over a little bit of what's going on here in the short to medium term, as we pretty much have the same story. And here's our weather system that's coming through for today. When we look at, and I'm looking at the 0Z run of the GFS here, and I'm just going to jump a little bit by 24-hour increments, and you can see what happens. Now, this is for this evening, and that's my oven, by the way, telling me that it's reached its preheated temperature. Okay, so we've got this upper low, this very strong storm that moves northeastward into southern Canada, takes all the energy with it, really. So we get a cold front that comes through with not much going on. Now, we see that trough moving through, and as we move through 72 hours, it just moves out offshore. So now we're at Saturday night, and watch what happens here in the east. We get this big ridge that builds. I mean, this is really a very, very powerful ridge that builds here in the eastern states, all the way up the coast and virtually right overhead. This is now out to next Thursday, and you can also see this very deep trough that comes out of the Rockies and heads over into the Plain States. So there's a pretty good storm going on there, and probably some big snows back through parts of Colorado and western Nebraska. I also want you to focus on the fact that if you look up here, it's the same story, where we have the primary polar vortex has shifted pretty far to the west, and that's going to keep cold air out. You see how the flow comes off the Pacific straight across Canada? That is not cold air. Same here on the southern part of the jet stream, straight out across the Pacific. That is also not cold air, and this is definitely not cold air here. Now, going forward, and this is where it gets a little interesting, you start to see some changes, and the GFS basically now shifts that vortex over to the east. So now you have a flow that is actually coming down out of northern Canada, and we were talking about next Tuesday here, so we're going out a little less than a week. I'm sorry, Tuesday, November 24th. So we are now at day 12, and we are getting a flow here that is coming out of Canada. We suddenly have a ridge in the Gulf of Alaska, split flow here in the Pacific with weather systems coming across, and one just off California. I'll move over to, I'll keep jumping in 24-hour increments here, and you can see how it happens. Jumping now to day 16, which takes us just past Thanksgiving, and we have what seems to be a split here in this vortex, with the one that's left back west of Alaska, but now we have this second one, so we have a bit of a polar flow that comes straight down from the north into the Great Lakes and Northeast. And so it seems like we also have a bit of an active southern branch here. Now, the problem is that when we go to later runs and we look to see what happens, the runs are, some of them are weaker with this feature. There's more of a dominance of the ridge. This is flatter, so we start playing those kind of games. The split happens on one run, it doesn't happen on another run. The bottom line is that we have to see this complex back here break down. And models are going to show that breakdown happening, only in reality it doesn't wind up happening. So until we see clear evidence that this is going to break down and some sort of polar flow starts to set up, and you see it right there, we're just going to have to go with more of the same. We're going to watch these runs and view them with a certain amount of skepticism, until a real pattern is established for an actual breakdown of what is back through here in the northwestern part of the Pacific, up through Alaska and Siberia. We're just going to ride these runs along and just basically see what happens. In the meantime, at least into the middle of next week, outside of these showers that we get today, weather looks fairly tranquil.